Are you able to see the screen
Yes,
presentation?
sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So today we'll be starting with the section B of natural language processing, in which in the previous lectures we have learned about the introduction about the natural language processing. I hope you all have understood about the natural language processing.
Yes,
What
sir.
is this research area? So
Yes,
now
sir.
the first topic is language processing in Python. Here you can see I have put one picture over here. This is I have picked from the book that we are following, and they are the authors of the books, and they are, the father of the NLP, not father exactly we can say, but they are the pioneers in the NLP research area. So the first one is Edward Loper, and another is Ivan Klein, and third is Stephen Bird. I think you must have heard about that. So we will be starting with the first topic, language processing in Python. So whenever we will be learning about how we can process the natural language processing through Python, so what are the requirements and what are the tools that we require? First is we require Python, and at least we need to have the version 2.4 and above. Then we need to install the toolkit with the name as NLTK. The name of the toolkit is Natural Language Toolkit, and version 2.0 when this book was written, and they have the backward compatibility as well if we are installing 3.0 or something else. So if we have 2.0, 1.0, so all the backward compatibilities are also there. When we are talking about NLTK, so definitely we need the data where we can do the experimentation. So data is also there available on the net, so you can download it, install it on your system into your this toolkit. So this is NLTK-data. So this contains linguistic corpora. Now I think you know about what is corpora. So that are analyzed and processed during this course. So we will be using those corpora that are there in the NLTK data. Then NumPy. I think you are learning NumPy in parallel. So what is this NumPy? It is recommended, not mandatory, but it is recommended that you install NumPy along with this NLTK, because we will be using tagging, clustering, classification task and other, and where we requiring NumPy. So what is NumPy? This is a scientific computing library with support for multi-dimensional arrays and linear algebra. And where it is required for certain kind of probability tasks, tagging tasks, clustering tasks, and classification tasks. Then another library is matplotlib, right? This is also recommended, right? This is also recommended. Fine. So it is a 2D plotting library. So when you have to plot the graphs and all, so you require some library that assists you in plotting the uh, plots. So this is a 2D plotting library for data visualization, and it is used in some of the books code samples, like you will be downloading while we coming to the next slide, in which books code is there. The books code samples that produce line graphs and bar charts. Then we have Network X library. So that is very optional. This is a library for storing and manipulating network structures consisting of nodes and edges for visualizing semantic networks. I think WordNet we have talked about. So for visualizing semantic networks, you can also install the GraphViz library. So these are very easy to install all these libraries. On the click of the button, you can just install it. But if you have installed it, so there is no harm in that. Then is Prover 9, that is also optional. This is an automated theorem prover for first order and equational logics used to support inference in language processing. So when you are talking about inference in language processing, so you will be requiring this library Prover 9. So you can install, you may install, because it is also optional. Then come to the main theme, that is natural language toolkit. What is natural language toolkit? It is an open source library. So what do you mean by open source library? Anybody?
Sir, it means it's freely available to use for everyone, sir.
Okay, that is freeware, right? But open source, what is open source? There is a term open source.
Sir, we can use it and also we can modify anything in that library.
Modify the source code, right? According to our
Yes, sir.
needs. That's why open source, the source code is available. So we can modify the source code even according to our requirements. So let's take an example. Suppose you are working in NLTK and now you want to work for Punjabi language processing. So there are very less algorithms that support Punjabi language processing in NLTK. So you can incorporate your own coded modules into it so that it starts working for Punjabi language processing as well. You may modify the existing ones so that they start working for an Punjabi language processing as well. Fine. So NLTK includes extensive software, data, and documentation. So what do you mean by documentation? Data we have already talked about in the last slide, that NLTK data, right? Software means all the modules, source code, and everything. What is documentation? Yes. Let me know. What do you mean by documentation?
Sir,
Kind of summarization.
Yes, Himani, bolo. Yes, Himani.
Sir, documentation is like coding is available, like tutorials are available inside it, sir. For that we can learn coding, and explanation is also given along with that.
Explanation, basically, how
Yes,
to
sir.
use,
Yes,
right?
sir.
So these are all freely downloadable from the website nltk.org. So distributions are provided for Windows, Macintosh, and Unix platforms. NLTK defines an infrastructure that can be used to build NLP programs in Python, right? So basically, NLTK is developed. NLTK, what is this NLTK? In which NLP programs are there that are developed in Python. Fine. So it provides basic classes for representing data relevant to natural language processing. First point. What it provides? Basic classes for representing data relevant to natural language processing. I think in the another class you are learning about list. You are learning about indexing the list, strings, and all. So basic classes are provided in which you can represent your data that are relevant for the natural language processing. Standard interfaces for performing tasks such as part of speech tagging, syntactic parsing, text classification. So you will be learning all about these things. I think I have given you an idea about part of speech tagging. Syntactic parsing, I think Himani, you have talked about, right? And text classification means that you have multiple kind of text in one paragraph, and how can you classify? So let's take an example that you have a newspaper in which you are putting all the news into it, and you give to your software. It can classify that whether it is a sports, whether it is related to crime. So it is classification. In standard implementations for each task, whatever task you are thinking of, if you talk about part of speech tagging, if you talk about syntactic parsing, you talk about text classification. So standard implementations in Python are available for each task that can be combined together to solve the complex problems. So I hope you all understand about NLTK. What is this NLTK?
Yes, sir.
So NLTK was designed with 4 primary goals in mind. First is simplicity. To provide an intuitive framework along with substantial building blocks, giving users a practical knowledge of NLP without getting bogged down in the tedious housekeeping usually associated with processing, annotating language data. So sometimes what happens is whenever you're talking about NLP, you need to have the data. and you need to do a lot of donkey's work as well, like manually annotate the data and so on. So NLTK is making everything very simple for you. So on the click of the button, you can do everything, just calling the function and it will be done. Consistency. To provide a uniform framework with consistent interfaces and data structures and easily guessable method names. So the names have been kept in such a way that you can guess what you can do. If you have something in your mind that you want to find the length of a string, so you have a function len. So you can guess the method names as well. Extensibility, to provide a structure into which new software modules can be easily accommodated, including alternative implementations and competing approaches to the same task. Modularity means it's not a single big program. So small programs are there having some specific purposes. So to provide components. So modularity means components, right? To provide components that can be used independently without needing to understand the rest of the toolkit. So all the modules, all the components are independent to each other. And it is not the case that if you want to use one component, you need to learn about another components, right? So some of the questions to be addressed during this lecture, it is easy to get our hands on millions of words of the text. So when you're talking about working on NLP, that will not be a case that you will be having a small paragraph of 1,000 words or 2,000 words, and you are working with the NLTK. So that will be of no use because you will be having millions of words of text on which you will be playing, right? And what can we do with it? Assuming we can write some simple programs. And in this lecture, we will address the following questions. First is, what can we achieve by combining simple programming techniques with large quantities of text? So large quantities of text is important, and how simple programming techniques can be used for solving our purpose. How can we automatically extract keywords and phrases that sum up the style and content of a text? So you will be having a big text with you, right? And you want to know about the style and the content of a text. So you can extract the keywords and the phrases with very simple, calling functions. What tools and techniques does the Python programming language provide for such work? So in Python as well, in NLTK as well. So what are some of the interesting challenges of NLP? So no doubt, NLP, it's not a simple research area. It's very tedious. It's very complex. So we will be learning about interesting challenges about that also. So now computing with languages, we are starting with text and words. So we all are familiar with text, right? And since we read and write it every day, so you all write and read text, am I right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so here we will be treating the text as a raw data. So raw data, that's why I have kept it red, raw data. So that doesn't have any meaning, right? Raw data for the programs we write and programs that manipulate and analyze it in a variety of interesting ways. So whenever you are providing a large text to the program, it is a raw data for it, right? But before we can do this, we have to get started with the Python interpreter because we will be working with the Python interpreter itself. So now we are assuming that you have the Python interpreter installed on your system. You have the Python interpreter on your systems, laptops?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
How can you verify that Python is installed on your system? Can you let me know what will be the small test you can do?
Sir, in the command prompt, we have to write a Python word in the base directory, sir. And when we press enter, it shows that whether it is installed or not, along with the version, sir.
Okay, so just write the Python keyword, and if it is installed, it will not give you any error. Otherwise, there is no Python that has been found, right?
Yes, sir.
So if you have not installed yet, so what you can do is you can just download and install the Python going to the website python.org. So once Python is installed in your systems, right? So you can install the NLTK toolkit So this is downloadable from nltk.org. Then you can follow the instructions there to download the version required for your platform, right? So now, what exercise you will be doing? So three students are today present: Himani, Menka, and Prem. So Menka, you will be working on PyCharm, and you will be tomorrow letting me know how NLTK can be installed in PyCharm. Fine.
Okay, sir.
Himani, you will be telling me know that if Anaconda, if someone is using Anaconda, so how NLTK can be installed and used and verified it is working. Got it?
Okay, sir.
And Prem, you will be finding about Jupyter Notebook.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Okay. So now we assume that. So that is also one of the command that import NLTK, NLTK.download. So once it is downloaded, so when you will be downloading, so you will see that you want to download some of the data also. So how can you do that? So you can see this interface will come in which all corpora and book is there. So book means the book we are referring to, and all the examples that has been taken, data that has been taken, so that they are available in this right collection. So then you will be selecting the book option and click on the download. So here you can see the button download over here. So once, so you will see it will take no doubt 4 or 5 minutes to download. Once the data is downloaded to your machine, so then you will be loading some of the data using the Python interpreter, right? So it will be downloading and you will be getting the message in the interface bottom that the download completed successfully. The first step is to type a special command at the Python prompt, which tells the interpreter to load some texts for us to explore. Because we have already downloaded book, right? In the last slide you have seen you have downloaded book. So now what you are doing, you are importing everything that you have downloaded, right? So what will be the command? From nltk.book that you have already downloaded. Fine. So from nltk.book import star. So whatever it has been downloaded, now it has been imported. So what will be imported? So suppose there are 9 books in this. So they have kept the name of the books as text 1, text 2, text 3 up to text 9. So they have kept the names as text 1, text 2, text 4, text 6, text 6, and so on. And these are the names of those books. Fine. So anytime you want to find out about these texts, just enter their names at the Python prompt. Fine. So how you will be mentioning? So here you are mentioning the name as text1. It will display the name. Text2. It will display the name over here. So there are many ways. Just wait.
Sir, we can't hear, able to hear, sir.
Oh, I'm so sorry, I was muted. So, so you can see over here that text one, text two. So if you are just typing in the previous slide, you have seen that name of the text one is this, text two is this, text four is this. So here just you are typing text one, it will display the name of the text. Text two, it is displaying the name of the text corresponding to text two. Concordance. So there are many ways to examine the context of a text apart from simply reading it. So here what we want to find out, context of a text. So a concordance view shows us every occurrence of a given word together with some context. So a concordance permits us to see words in a context. So it is showing us the words in the context. So how you are using it? Text one dot concordance, and in double quotes you are mentioning the word corresponding to which you want to see the context. So it is displaying finding 11 matches. So here you can see building index, and then it is displaying you the context corresponding to that. Then if you want to see the common contexts, the term common context allows us to examine just the context that are shared by two or more words. Same context, the words that has been used in the same context, such as monstrous and vary. So we have to enclose these words by square brackets as well as parentheses and separate them with a comma. So text one dot common underscore context, then in bracket, because this is a function, so you have called it, and in between you are mentioning the list, so name of the two words. So it is showing you that where these two has been used in the same context. It is one thing to automatically detect that a particular word occurs in a text and displays some words that appear in the same context. So you have used concordance. Now you have learned about common context. So here we have a dispersion plot. However, we can also determine the location of a word in a text. Suppose there is a large text, and even in MS Word, when you are finding out suppose ABC word you want to search for, and you want to highlight that word, where is it available in the whole text, so it will be highlighting. So you want to find the location of the word, at which location this word is present in the text. 1000, 150th, 111th, wherever. So so we can find out how many words from the beginning it appears, right? So means location means how many words from the beginning it appears. Suppose so 0th location, we can say that is the beginning of the text, and starting from where, how many words from the beginning it appears, right? So this positional information, this is positional information, right? This is very important word, positional information. We are finding about the position of that word. So positional information can be displayed using a dispersion plot. So each strip, so you can see each strip represents an instance of a word. So here you can see you are looking at the strips, right, in the dispersion plot. So each strip is mentioning about the instance of the word, and each row. So citizens, this is one row. Democracy, this is another row. Freedom, that is another row. Duties, America. So it means citizens, you can see the dense and the very dense strips there. So it means citizens are being used number of times in that whole text. So each row is representing the complete text, and it is highlighting in the form of a strip where the citizen word is present. So here you can see that word offset. So 0 means it is the beginning of the text. Then 20,000 words, 40,000 words, 60,000 words, 80,000 words, 10,000 words, 1 lakh 20, 1 lakh 40, 1 lakh 60. So this is the word offset. So how can you use it? Text 4 dot dispersion underscore plot. This is the function you are calling, and then you are putting as a list of words inside the parenthesis for which you want to see the dispersion plot. And we are saying that lexical dispersion plot. So got it?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Then you want to generate randomly some text out of the text you have, right? So what you can do is text 3. So we have number of text 1, text 2, text 3, text 4, text 5, text 6, है So we can pick any one. So we are picking text 3. Text 3 dot generate. So it will generate some random text for you from text 3. So first time, no doubt, whenever you are running the command, it will be slow because it gathers statistics about the word sequences. What do you mean by word sequences? Can you let me know?
The sequence of
So wherever that word is there.
Sequence of words, simple. One word, 2 word, 3 word, combination of 3 words, like, right? We are not talking about any particular word. So each time you run it, you will get different output text because randomly it is being generated. So you can you have number of other text also. You can inaugural addresses are there, internet chat room is there. So many text are you have downloaded. You can try this generate over there. So although the text is random, it reuses common words and phrases from the source text and gives us a sense of its style and content. So just try it by yourself as well. Now you want to find the counting, you want to count the vocabulary, right? So you have a text 3, right? So you have enclosed text 3 inside length. You're calling a function length in which you are passing text 3. It means you are telling him to tell me the length of that text. So it has told that it is 44,764. Now question is 44,764 words and punctuation symbols or tokens, right? So what do you mean by token? Yes, please. Himani, what is token?
Sir, token is like some identifier, like who is next in the sequencer or like that.
In the if you're talking about NLP and you have one paragraph,
Yes,
so
sir.
what will be the tokens in that?
so the quantity of text, sir, in the paragraph.
Pardon?
Quantity of text, sir.
So
The quantity of text.
if we are taking space as delimiter, what is delimiter?
It's a separator, sir.
Separator, right?
Either pipe symbol or camera.
I have given you an example. He is a boy. How many tokens are there?
3,
He is a boy.
4, sir.
He is
4.
a boy. He is a boy. Full stop. How many tokens are there?
5.
Is he intelligent? Question mark.
4.
So got it. It means each and every word that is coming over there, including punctuation symbol, that is a token. Got it? So now this is the token. Now the vocabulary of a text. So vocabulary is another term. Vocabulary of a text is just the set of tokens that it uses. Since in a set all duplicates are collapsed together. So you can say that a book is a good habit. A book is a good habit. So tell me how many tokens? A book is a good habit.
6, sir.
A book reading is a good habit.
7.
A book reading 3 is a 5, good habit 7. Fine. So these are words or tokens. Now tell me vocabulary. How many vocabulary? What is the vocabulary of this? Here all duplicates are collapsed together. Yes.
Sir, A is occurring 2 times, so that will be
That will be
counted as 1. Yes.
Yes, right. So now if you want to find the vocabulary, so you have a function of set, S-E-T, set. Set within words, you are writing text 3. Then it will be showing that if you are finding set text 3, then if you are putting sorted around it, it means by wrapping sorted around the parenthesis expression set text 3, we obtain a sorted list of vocabulary items. Whosoever is coming more frequently. So, like alphabetical order, if you are saying, so they will arrange in alphabetical order. So now if you are placing length around it, so it will tell you that 2789 vocabulary items are here. Otherwise, how many tokens were there? 44,764. And how many vocabulary items are there? 2,789. So they are distinct words, right? Then another term is word types. Word type is entirely different because we have number of types of words, right? So a word type is a form or spelling of a word independently of its specific occurrence in the text. That is the word considered as a unique item of vocabulary. So out of 789 items will include punctuation symbols. So we will generally call these unique items types instead of word types. So here, now you can see the lexical richness of the text. If suppose I say that, what is the percentage of this word the, the, the in the whole text? So this is lexical richness. So how you are doing is, first example we have taken that first length of text 3, right? Length of text 3, it will giving you the whole total number of words, right? And you are dividing with length of set of text 3, that is vocabulary item. So it means 16% of vocabulary items are becoming the part of the whole text. Got my point? So you want to count how many times this particular word is coming. Text 3 dot count. You may mention the word over here. How many times the word A is participating in the whole text? The percentage you can find over here. First is text 4 dot count particular word divided by the length of the text. So this is 1.5% of the total words are A in the whole text 4. Got it? What is lexical richness of the text?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And why I have written this from future_import division? Because in the previous Python libraries, a division is not implicitly part of this. You need to import it. But when you're talking about Python 3 and above, so you need not to write this because division is implicitly the part of your libraries. Then whenever you are using lexical diversity, so you can define your own function. I think you have already gone through the functions as well. So here you can use the term def, keyword def, then name of the function, what is the input you want to take from the user, and then return whatever the formula you have written over here. So now this becomes the function. And whenever you have written def and this and colon, so 3 dots are coming. 3 dots means this prompt indicates that Python expects an indented code block to appear next. So in this way, you can write the functions. Here you have made the function lexical_diversity. percentage. So then you can just directly call lexical underscore diversity, and you can pass X3, it will give you the results. You need not to write this formula again and again. Similarly, you can call the function percentage, in which you can mention the count as well as the total. It will give you the, yeah. So in percentage, you can just write the formula as well as directly over here, text4.count a, length of text4. So in this way, you are calling the function percentage, and instead of writing the number over here, you are calling the function count. Instead of writing totals, you are calling length. So because length will be passing on number that will be assigned to total, it is giving back count. So it will be assigned to count. So got how you can write the short names instead of complete Python code. So again and again, you need not to write the big codes. You can just call the functions, short names. Now, what is text? We all know that at one level, it is a sequence of symbols on a page. So, such as this one, you can see over here. At another level, it is a sequence of chapters made up of sequence of sections, where each section is a sequence of paragraphs and so on when we talk about a book, right? And here, for our purposes, we'll think of text as nothing more than a sequence of words and punctuations. Got my point? So when we are talking about Python, so text is simply sequence of words and punctuations. So there is no difference between chapters, sections, paragraphs, and so on. So when you talk about list in Python, we know that we have defined one list over here. We have kept the name as sent1, and inside the square brackets you have mentioned the elements of that list. First is Paul, another is me, another is Ishmael, another is Dot. So this bracketed material is known as list in Python. So it is how we store a text in Python. When you have to inspect it, you are just writing the name of the list. It will display the elements of the list to you. You can find out the length of the list by calling length, then name of the list. It is providing you a number of items that are there in the list. That is 4. So we can even apply our own lexical diversity that we have created one function or short name. So lexical diversity, you are putting sent1, so it is providing you. So then you can add 2 lists. One list you have provided in square brackets, then you are putting plus sign. Another list you are provided with combining the 2 lists, appending one after the another. I think this is clear to all. Any doubt?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay. So this
No,
is
sir.
plus sign which you are concatenating. Then appending, you all know appending. So this is the name of the list, sent1 dot append some element to be appended. So you can see that element will be appended at the last. When you're talking about indexing the list, you can find any element, right? So text 4, 170, third element. So you can just write the index over here. It will tell you, it will display you the 173rd element in the text 4. So you can find out even index of particular word. So text 4 dot index, then you can write the word over here. It will display you the index of that word where it is present. So even you can have the range, name of the text 5 you have used, you have the data, right? This is known as slicing, right? So text 5 from range M to range N. Fine, so it will display. Sent 0, so it will display the word that the item that is present at 0th index. 9, it will display at 10th position because 0, 1, 2, 3 up to 9, so like that. So notice that our indexes start from 0, sent element 0, written as sent 0, first element of word, and whereas the sent 9 is the word 10, 10th element. So why is it so? The moment Python accesses the content of a list from the computer's memory, it is already at the first element. So we have to tell it how many elements forward to go. Thus 0 steps forward, leaves it at the first element. And if we accidentally use the index that is too large and it is not in the scope, so it will throw an error to us, right? Because there are index up to 9. If you try to find out the 10, so it will display you the error. And what is the name of the error? Index error, list index out of range. So next is you can write out cent 5 is to 8, right? So if you are, so you can see by convention, m is to 9 means elements from m up to n minus 1, right? So cent, you are not mentioning anything, colon 3. It means starting from beginning up to 2. Here you can see 1, 4, 1, 5 to 5. So starting from this 2 further. So you can even modify, you can just modify the list as well. You can see, you can just modify the list as well. You can just try by your own. Then variables, you all know about the variables. Cent1, you are mentioning over here. It means you are assigning one list to the variable cent1. So such lines has the form like variable equal to expression. So this process is called assignment. So here you can say, what is, can you let me know the associativity of the assignment operator? Associativity of the assignment operator.
Sir, it's left to right, sir.
Right to left.
Yeah, right to left. Yes, sir. The value on the right is stored to the left side.
Fine. So
Yes,
this
sir.
is, so this is just a explanation about variables. So we are you know, assigning the variables. Here you can see my cent, we have created one list. You are storing first 4 elements into the another list. So you are finding that new list has been created. So then you are sorting it, you're sorting and storing into that. So remember that capitalized letters appear before lowercase words in the sorted list. So this is very important. Then general guidelines that it is good to choose meaningful variable names to remind you and to help anyone else who reads your Python code what your code is meant to do. It is not that you are writing A, B, C, D, and so on. No. So whatever its purpose is, just write down that purpose. So what is the restriction when you are writing the variable names? You cannot use the reserved keywords. Like here we have used not. So not is a reserved keyword. It is a reserved word, so you can use it. So like def, if not, import. So you cannot use this. Syntax error, invalid syntax. So then we will often use variables to hold intermediate results. So here we can see the example vocab equal to, you're finding the number of words. Then vocabulary size, you are writing the length of vocab, and then you are displaying it. So just you can use the variables for what purpose. Then strings you have already done. I have to just recap. Recap. So you are creating one string with name, and you are storing Monty into it by enclosing it single quotes. So if you want to go for indexing, so name of 0, it will give you M, and without starting column 4, it will give you starting from 0 up to mont, M-O-N-T. So then we can also perform multiplication and addition with the strings. You can multiply to, you can add another character to it. You can join also, right? So you can see that string dot join. So this is the list. So it is this, and Monty Python, Monty Python dot split. So it will split into different items by giving you a list as a result. So simple statistics, if you talk about, this is one list what we have created with the name as saying, tokens set of that name of the list, then sorted. So this is what you will try from tokens minus 2 colon. Can you tell me what you mean by that? What will be the result for this? What minus 2 colon will do?
Sir, it will start counting from third last word, sir.
Not started.
But ending, sir, from ending, like minus two, it will be leaving off, sir.
Yeah. It will
Yes,
start
sir.
from back. It will start from back basically, right?
Yes, sir. From backside it will start.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
fine. The frequency distribution, I think you all have studied about this tally and the frequency calculation in your lower classes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. In lower class we have done, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, so I'll be going fast. So how can we automatically identify the words of a text that are most informative about the topic and genre of the text? So we need to find out which word is coming most frequent, right? So imagine you might go about finding the 50 most frequent words of a book. The tally would need thousands of rows, and it would be exceedingly laborious process. So laborious that we would rather assign the task to a machine. So this table, what we have shown over here, it is a frequency distribution, and it tells us the frequency of each vocabulary item in the text. And it is a distribution since it tells us how the total number of word tokens in the text are distributed across the vocabulary items. So as we have mentioned all the words in one column, if the is coming somewhere, we are putting vertical line, then vertical line, and then crossing. So this is how in our lower classes we have learned about. So there is a very simple method in the NLTK. So there is a function freq means frequency, dist distribution. So what you will do is you are storing the result into the fdist1, calling the function freq disk, f capital D capital freq dist, in brackets you are providing the text one. Then you try to display the fdist1. It will tell that frequency disk with 2,60,819 outcomes. Okay, it has shown the output like this. As it is a dictionary, right? Because it is telling the word along with the frequency of that. So we are displaying the keys, right? And storing into the vocabulary one. And then we are displaying first 50, most common. So it has displayed the keys only. So values has not been displayed, frequency has not been displayed. So you want to see the occurrence of vowel coming into that text tree, text one. So it is showing 906. So when we first invoke the freq disk, we pass the name of the text as an argument. We can inspect the total number of words that have been counted up to this, and the expression keys gives us the list of all the distinct type of words in the text, and we can look at the first 50 of this by slicing the list. So here we have sliced, right? So got it about frequency distribution over here?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So this is cumulative frequency plot. So you can plot as well. So here is the function. You can see the bold line fdist1 dot plot 50 comma cumulative equal to true to produce the graph. Okay, so what it is doing, we can generate a cumulative frequency plot for these words. So you can see 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 50. So this plot has been drawn. So if the frequent words does not help us, how about the words that occur only once? And so they are called as hapexes. So then you can see as fdist1 dot hapexes. So the list will display those words that are coming only once. So I hope this is fine for today.
Sir.
So tomorrow again we'll be having class at 9 o'clock. But you all